I had this realization one day where I was like, hold on, anxious attachment is still way too broad of a category for the different types of experiences people are having within that. Hello, happy to be back with you for some more videos. You may notice I'm in a different background. I'm in Bali now, before I was in Lisbon. And I'm excited about this video because it's going to help you really clarify some things about your anxious attachment. I had this realization one day where I was like, hold on, anxious attachment is still way too broad of a category for the different types of experiences people are having within that. So you've heard of the attachment styles: anxious, avoidant, disorganized, secure, but under just the anxious attachment umbrella, I am sure there are at least 4 types that we could categorize, and maybe I will just have to trademark this as the person who realized this, because I am very deep in this work, but there's clearly at least 4 different types, and I think if you make 6 or 8 or 9 different types like the Enneagram, it starts to get really confusing. So we're going to focus on the 4 different, we can call them archetypes of anxious attachment. It's like 4 different ways that anxious attachment presents itself based on a number of things, based on your connection to yourself, based on your nervous system, based on your relationship to your needs and boundaries, etc., etc. Let's get into it. I'm going to talk to you about each of the 4. You'll probably be able to pick up on which one you are, but if not, then I created a totally free quiz that has 12 questions that's also going to tell you which type of anxious attachment you actually fall into. Even better, once you take the quiz, you're going to find out which type you are, and then you're going to receive a mini training video for each type that teaches you more about that type and what your specific strategies are and how you can implement it. So there's a lot of support and content available to you around this topic and getting just more specific on your anxious attachment. So this really started because what I was noticing is that the women that I worked with's healing journey, kind of the steps that they needed to take, looked really, really different. For example, some women experience a lot of jealousy and some don't. Some women with anxious attachment are able to be really verbal with their desire for closeness, like even to the point of being a bit needy or whiny, and some cannot speak out their needs at all. So those are 2 pretty big extremes, and the more that I got to know people in their process, the more that I started to see differences but also similarities, which allowed me to categorize it into 4. And with all of these things, what I don't want to do is give you or give myself something more to identify with, because what I find is saying like I have anxious attachment or I am anxiously attached, it's like we are putting that on as something that we are, and I don't like that. So that's why I always say like anxious attachment tendencies, or I try to, or anxious attachment behavior, because you are not anxious attachment. This is just a set of behaviors or coping mechanisms that you've learned over time that we can of course unlearn and replace. So now that the quiz has been created and the archetypes have been developed, I've had over 900 people go through this quiz, and what the women are noticing is it's helping them understand their unique relationship dynamics better. And actually within my Becoming Secure membership that I know you've heard me talk about, there are different curriculums based on each archetype. So if you're archetype A, the curriculum videos that I suggest you watch and the order you watch them in is actually different than if you were archetype B or C or D, for example. Because as I said, these different types need different things. You need different support, you need different medicine. And as I say, it's not about knowing, it's about taking action. So we're going to talk about the action steps for each individual type. So let's go ahead and dive in, and I'll tell you the 4 different archetypes. So we have the sensitive soul, the calm and collected overthinker, the affection enthusiast, and the distant dreamer. And just for a brief description, the sensitive soul is someone who's more likely to retreat inward, maybe more overtly shy, might be someone who self-sabotages due to fear of inadequacy, or she might be someone who self-sabotages due to really overwhelming feelings of rejection or inadequacy. The calm and collected overthinker is someone who might try and outthink their emotions, analyze every detail to feel more in control. She's someone who, outward facing, you might see her as a really confident person, but internally that world is filled with doubt and overwhelm and a bit of grasping, especially in romantic relationships. The affection enthusiast is someone who is probably able to seek reassurance and ask for what she wants, bordering on demanding what she needs. Maybe someone who tends to really, really overgive, sort of in a transactional way, like if I do this for them, what will they do for me? And finally, the distant dreamer, she is someone who is more likely to actually distance herself to feel more safe. She might feel an internal conflict between her sense of independence and resistance to feeling open and vulnerable. This person is a bit more heady, logical, analytical, and they have relied on independence as a way to protect themselves from feeling vulnerable. And she might even think she's avoidant. So from hearing those, you might already be able to self-categorize, or maybe you're resonating with a little bit from each of them. So as we get into it, what you're going to see is that the triggers, the nervous system responses, and the coping mechanism are what varies the most between each type. So as I said before, our attachment patterns are deeply rooted in our nervous system. More than anything, it is a body response and a trained response to feel fear or nervous or stressed when we are facing a perceived or real threat. This could be as simple as him not texting you back for 6 hours. And if you try and explain to your mind, I shouldn't be triggered right now, or why do I feel like he's gonna leave when he's literally here with me, or when he's texting me and telling me he's committed, it's because you haven't done the nervous system work. You've done the understanding work. Your adult mind and your conscious awareness can see, okay, this guy's showing up, he's being a good guy, why do I feel so scared? And it's because the pattern of fear is running in your nervous system. And so we have to access this also through the body in order to bring safety into the body. So the second layer of this, in terms of where the archetypes differ, is in terms of trigger/survival responses. So let's say that a trigger is feeling distance in the relationship, and this is going to activate your survival response. That is specifically going to be fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which are driven mostly from a fear of disconnection. And what's under that fear of disconnection is usually a feeling of unworthiness, and what's beneath the unworthiness is a fear of being alone, like alone forever, alone. So when we can work to connect with those parts of ourselves that are experiencing that fear and have those doubts, that's where we offer healing and soothing. And again, it's through the body. So based on your survival response, your coping mechanism is probably going to be different. If you have a dominant fawn response, you probably have a very people-pleasing coping mechanism. So when we're a fawn, we can still usually react and behave, which is a bit different than a freeze, which can be more of a full shutdown. So the fawn response could be soothing the other person, downplaying what you want to say, just being the good girl, basically, even though it's actually crossing our boundary. And you can uncover this through how your body feels about this. It might be a sense of dread, resentment. I don't actually want to do this. Why are they making me do this? If any of that is the story, that's a really good indication that your boundary is being crossed. So people pleasing is a coping mechanism for this fear of disconnection, and it still doesn't serve us. Another coping mechanism could be more of lashing out, get away from me, bringing mean comments. That would be the coping mechanism of a fight response. So let's go again through the archetypes, but in more detail. Starting again with the sensitive soul. As I said, she is a gentle, introspective individual. She might feel insecure and anxious in most areas of life, whether it's family and friends, or work, or romantic relationships. There's this nervousness, maybe fear that you're being judged all the time, kind of like a nervousness. So the anxious attachment tendencies for her could be frequently worrying about people's feelings towards you, fear of judgment, feeling nervous about being abandoned. And you probably notice, if you have this type, that you feel shy or hesitant in expressing your needs or desires. Maybe you feel blocked from using your voice. You might think that you don't deserve to have things, and so you don't ask for them or go after them. If this is you, you might be desiring reassurance or validation, but not want to ask for it. You might notice that if you get it, it feels good, it feels really nice and soothing, but you can't ask for it. So you're constantly hoping it will happen without doing anything to get it. And in this case, you might attract or settle for partners that you know don't actually treat you right. So there is a big worthiness wound here, and you are certainly not alone. Out of all the people that have taken this quiz, I think this is the second most common archetype. So the sensitive soul is different than, for example, the affection enthusiast, which we're going to talk about, because she's more likely to blame herself for relationship struggles instead of feeling confident in her expression or in tune with her needs and desires. So the most important thing for the nervous system of the sensitive soul and for your growth is to build self-worth independently of your relationships or your ability to help people and to really basically hype yourself up. That's the most important thing for the sensitive soul, is to build your self-worth independently of your relationships or your ability to help others. Sensitive souls often lean on helping jobs or caring jobs in order to feel like they are good enough or that they're doing something good in this world. So you are going to need to focus on the pillars of self-confidence, self-trust, self-reassurance, reparenting the inner child. All of those tools are going to be paramount for you to create a really deep self-valuing connection with yourself. Next, we have the calm and collected overthinker. So the calm and collected overthinker is this highly capable, outwardly confident individual who appears pretty calm and in control, but internally struggles with anxiety in intimate relationships. So she is someone who is not necessarily the word fiery, but like on. You can handle stuff. People know you can handle stuff. You're accountable. People can rely on you. Your people pleasing would be like doing stuff for other people or being the leader of a project, acts of service, maybe organization, getting stuff done. So the anxious attachment tendencies for this type might show up as overanalyzing interactions with your romantic interests, feeling anxious about maintaining someone's interest. So there's a lot of feeling of needing to prove our worth in relationships and then doubting that our partners think we're worth it. And the question for the calm and collected overthinker that she's always asking herself is like, have I done enough? Am I at a high enough standard for this person to choose me? Have I succeeded enough in life? And there's probably a bit of a fear of getting it wrong or being seen as less than perfect. These are going to be big for the calm and collected overthinker because I'm in this category, want to feel right and like you're doing a good job and capable and be acknowledged for that. So you would probably notice that you can excel in areas of your life, but you might find it challenging to be that secure in romantic relationships, especially when it comes to letting someone else take the lead or kind of like sitting back and letting a man lead. The calm and collected overthinker has often done personal development work, and she gets stuck between really wanting a masculine man who's like strong and in his leadership and makes decisions, but also being someone who is often in her masculine energy and notices her tendencies for control and being independent. So there's this desire to let go and be held, and that is like a high desire, but it's also met with this like needing to prove in order to get that, which is actually the opposite energy of surrender and receiving and being in her feminine energy, which is what we would need to do in order to have someone else hold the opposite pole in that dynamic of a man who is very in his masculine. So if you are the common collected overthinker, you may have had the experience of keeping your anxiety hidden behind being relaxed, the chill girl. You probably do well under pressure, especially externally, and it's easy for you to show up like you're in control, even if you feel overwhelmed inside. You probably feel like you need to figure it out on your own, and unlike the affection enthusiast, again, the common collected overthinker is more likely to downplay her needs for attention, probably giving, like I said, this chill girl, I don't need affection, it's okay, whatever happens is fine, he cancels, it's not a big deal, it's whatever. That's kind of the attitude to maintaining this cool, more aloof exterior instead of being able to directly seek the emotional closeness or the intimacy that a deeper part of you craves. So the most important thing for the common collected overthinker is to acknowledge and validate the internal anxieties, letting yourself get a little messy, letting yourself feel the ache in your heart for love, letting yourself maybe be helped in terms of being overwhelmed, or when you're stressed, actually leaning on your friends instead of, having friends but being the one that takes care of everything, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and seek someone to hold you too. That is the common collected overthinker. Okay, so as much as I would love to get into the rest of them, I'm noticing that this video is getting a little bit long, and I want my videos to be close to 20 minutes so that they're easy to digest. So I'm going to leave a part 2 for this video. We'll upload them very close together so that you can have the access to the other 2. In that video, we will talk about the affection enthusiast and the distant dreamer. But as I said, just go take the quiz right now. It's free. There's a link in the show notes. Figure out which one you are. Then you will just get your individualized video based on your type. And of course, if you're interested in hearing about all the types, then I'll see you in part 2.